A year and a half ago, I left my role as staff engineer at Meta to start a company. I love my job right now, but there are a lot of things that I dearly, dearly miss about Meta, or what I'll refer to as Facebook. A lot of my audience, a lot of you guys are actually working in big tech. And so I thought it'd be interesting to document what are the things that I miss the most about the big tech life, along with what I've heard from my friends who have also left to either start their own company or join a much smaller company. And my point here is not to say that big tech is perfect and you should never leave big tech, but I do think it's worth acknowledging how good certain things are. And I didn't truly appreciate that until after I had left that bubble. The first benefit of big tech is that you know what to do. And that sounds obvious, but I definitely took it for granted. In big tech, you have clarity on what to work on in order to have impact and be productive. At Facebook, I was hired in as an Android engineer, and there were very clear team, organizational, and company priorities in every given half. So I knew very easily how I could plug in my work and how it would connect to what my team cared about. And contrast that to my startup experience. I remember a bit more than a year ago, we spent 2 weeks finalizing and deciding on the name of Taro for our company. And we had done presentations and spreadsheets. We had debated pros and cons of different names. We looked at the domain name availability. And in retrospect, those 2 weeks were a complete waste of time. We should have made that decision way faster. But because we didn't really have a clear roadmap, it was easy to go down these rabbit holes and just waste a bunch of time on things that didn't actually have impact. We thought at the time that having a really good name for a startup would be really high impact and high leverage, but I think that was mostly because we didn't really know how else we could even measure progress. And when you're floundering like that and you're not really sure what you should be working on, that can lead to a lot of anxiety, especially for people who leave big tech, and certainly for me. A lot of people I talk to who work in big tech, they have this dream that, I'm gonna do so many things when I escape the daily 9-to-5 grind. I'm gonna pursue my hobbies, I'm gonna go to the gym more, I'm gonna finish off the backlog of projects that I have. But actually, a very common outcome is that nothing gets done when these people actually leave big tech. You end up spending your day on things that have no impact. Working in Facebook gave me accountability and focus, which was really valuable to get things done in a timely fashion. And I'm talking not only about spending time on low leverage tasks like a naming debate for your company, but also you find that other things get in the way when you don't have a boss. A lot of people I talk to, when they do leave the corporate life and now they're their own boss, they end up filling their whole day with what I would call minutia of, I need to clean my room, I'm gonna plan out dinner, I'm gonna plan out a social event. And they don't do the thing that they really care about, the thing they actually probably left the Facebook or big tech life for. This is an example of the grass is greener phenomenon. When you're working within a big company, you crave the freedom and unstructured environment of being on your own and not having a boss. But when you're on your own, it turns out that you actually liked a lot of the structure that a company provided you. In some ways, you even liked having a boss because it gave you clarity on what you should spend your time on. Perhaps the most obvious difference in my post-Facebook life is the lack of free food and free drink. And people talk about this a lot as a joke, but for someone like me who had pretty much every lunch and dinner at Facebook, it really was life-changing in a bad way when I left the corporate bubble and had to figure all this out on my own. I remember going in for breakfast occasionally and they would have this big commercial grade orange juicer, so you could grab your fresh squeezed orange juice, go to this amazing fruit bar, and then go to the waffle station. It was just like phenomenal food that was right there and completely free for you. And that made it so you didn't have to think about logistics or planning when it came to meals. It really did make you more productive. The other huge benefit, and I think maybe the more important one, of having all of these cafes on campus is that it led to deeper conversation and deeper bonds with your coworkers, because the natural thing you would do is, hey, let's all go to lunch together and get this amazing free food and just talk. And that leads to my next point about how big tech offers inbuilt socializing and connections to people on your team. It may not always be fun or what you want to be doing, but the fact of the matter is that when you're working in a big company, you will be regularly interacting with the people on your team. When I left Facebook, I honestly felt pretty lonely because the number of people I talked to in a given day went down dramatically. I did have my co-founder Alex, which that was helpful, but then a lot of the conversations we were having in the early days were a lot more ephemeral or transactional. Like we would have a user interview call with someone, and then maybe I'd talk to them 6 months later, or maybe never again. And so that regularity, that cohesion that you would find at my team at Facebook or at what most people would have in big tech, that simply wasn't there. It helped that we got into the summer batch of Y Combinator in 2022, and that gave us a really good community of people who we could interact with. But it was still a really tough adjustment for me to leave the cohesion of big tech and then going off on your own where you have way fewer people to talk to and get ideas from. The final thing I really miss about big tech, which I definitely didn't anticipate, is that people don't really say no to you if you're a software engineer in one of these companies. As a startup founder, my life is filled with rejection now. Whether it's an investor who I was pitching last year to invest in Taro and they either ghost me or say no, or if I'm trying to get on a call with some eng director somewhere to tell them about eng productivity and happiness and how we could help, my life is constantly filled with rejection. There's probably 10x more rejection now than what I felt at Facebook. While I was working at Facebook, it was kind of magical. I could message literally anyone in the company, and there's a really good chance that they would actually engage with me. I mean, maybe not like Zuck or Cheryl, but for the most part, I could message anyone. And if I told them about myself, I'm like a tech lead on this team, I have some questions, or I'm just curious about your role, most people would engage with me and even hop on a 30-minute call. Because you're all working in the same company, you have this inherent trust and credibility in a way that you wouldn't have when you leave that big tech bubble. That's been a huge adjustment for me, and I really do wish, looking back, that I could have taken more advantage of just talking to different types of people while I was working at Facebook. There are definitely days, even today, even recently, where I wake up and I have this deep regret for having left Facebook and all of the great things that I didn't even realize I had while I was in big tech. But I also really love what we're building at Taro, and hopefully as we grow and have more impact on more people, we can start to adopt a lot of the same characteristics that I loved about Facebook into this company. Let me know what else I missed about working in one of these large companies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.